Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Sabo.
And I was going to say we're joined this week, but we're not.
No,
That's
we're
not
not
the way this works. But we're going to talk about an episode this week, and it's 276, which is Third Degree.
Oh boy, my favorite type of burn.
Yeah, is Third Degree anything other than a burn?
What do you...
Like, what is the third degree in this episode?
Oh, I don't know. I'm really trying to think of like all the different vernacular ways that...
Because last episode we didn't talk about, but was second thoughts. And I also am not sure what the second thoughts were.
Yeah, I feel like this episode was more second thoughts than anything.
Correct. So this episode is called Third Degree, and I don't...
Bernard murders somebody and is going to prison.
Did the degrees of murders go up that high?
Yeah.
Okay, so third degree murder is a thing?
Yes.
Because I know there's like first degree and second degree, and I thought it just became manslaughter after that.
Oh, maybe it does just become manslaughter. I can't say that.
I kind of think it's like first degree murder is there's like intent to murder. Second degree murder is intent to harm.
Yeah.
And manslaughter is no ill intent.
Yeah. But you did kill somebody.
Correct.
Vehicular manslaughter.
Right.
Gotta
but
love it.
So that's where I'm like, why is this?
No, what is the third degree here?
Right.
Maybe it has to do with the amount of education that Eugene's new friends have received. Like maybe they all have their doctorates.
Gonna get his third degree. A man who does not have his first degree, unless you count high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is it's another episode in our road trip saga. This is an episode that originally aired August 6th of 1994. It's written by Marshall Younger, directed by Paul McCusker. We're still early in Marshall Younger's tenure as an Odyssey writer. This is like maybe his like 7th or 8th episode.
Wow.
I don't believe he's directed one yet.
That's crazy.
So he's more or less just functioning as a writer as he gets in. But yeah. So the last episode was also Marshall Younger, and I feel like we can maybe cut a little bit of slack to be like, okay, he's new to the job. He does wind up becoming pretty good. I don't think this episode is like bad, but like we'll
get into it.
Talk about some of the interesting components of it.
There are several. I didn't listen to this episode 3 times because I was just absolutely head over heels about it.
No, you listened to it 3 times because you wanted to stay on theme, as it is third degree.
Exactly.
The next one you will listen to 4 times.
What's the next one titled?
It happened at 4 corners.
Oh, perfect. Dylan, you killed it. I was going to say, stay tuned to the end of the episode and find out.
Andrew, I
okay.
did kill it.
It's okay.
At the end of the episode now, we can say, you already know what we're covering, and just end it there.
Love that. I love that.
We'll see if I still remember that joke in an hour. Give or take. These episodes aren't a set length.
By no means.
If you didn't pick up on that, Jack Squad.
Yeah.
I think it's
5 years into it.
Very apparent. The other thing, we have a bunch of guest voices in this episode. No one of like super note. Probably our most notable person is Bryant Jennings. Is the character. He's being played by Gary Reed here. Gary Reed is not like an actor of note, but is an Odyssey performer of note in that he played Jeff Lewis, who was Connie, the first guy who Jeff, Connie was interested in. He also played Brandon Teller, who is the is he the he's the brother. Is he the brother to Monica? Well, he's the brother to Mitch's girlfriend who was killed.
Yes, I thought his voice sounded familiar. Wow.
I was
Way
like,
to
what,
go.
what is
Thanks,
his name?
Wiki.
Yeah. So anyways, that puts him in 2 episodes or that we have covered. Or I guess we haven't covered the Jeff Lewis one, but this is number 2 that we have covered of his episodes. That's what I meant to say the whole time. We also have Elizabeth, who's like the annoying girl, who's a part of this group that Eugene's hanging out with a bunch of intellectuals.
Yeah.
So Bryant's one of those, the main one. Elizabeth is one. She's voiced by Marilee Brash, who is an actress who's like done some stuff. She was in like an episode of Criminal Minds, an episode of 90210, like some actual shows that aired, but nothing like. Well,
This
like,
was not a show that aired.
sometimes I'm like, okay, this person was in shows, but nothing I have heard of, and so they're irrelevant to me. This is like, okay, nothing I've watched, but stuff that I like know of, know is like, big deal of some sort. I'm named after someone in 90210.
Really?
So, yeah.
I've never seen 90210.
Neither have I, but that's where my name came from. Despite my father's insistence that it's named after Bob Dylan, that is not the way it worked.
Should have called you Robert.
Yeah, and then we also have Josh West is playing another one of these guys, Jeffrey. Danny Ackerman is playing another one named Stanley, and neither of them have been in any other episodes of Odyssey, so they're kind of irrelevant. But then we do have Matt Hurwitz. He plays both the judge and the police officer.
The law himself.
Yeah, and he's been in a bunch of episodes of Odyssey playing, like, every bit character. I don't think any... Oh, never mind. He was in... There we go. He was previously in all 3 episodes of The Perfect Witness.
Oh.
I think he played one of the goons in that. Or did he play a detective? I think he played one of the goons. He played Mike Roberts, who is the dad.
Oh.
He's the dad in those episodes. Okay.
Interesting. Gotta love it.
So yeah, that's the cast of our episode.
That Gary Reed poll was good, because I felt like I had heard his voice before, but I couldn't place it for the life of me.
Yeah,
but the fact that that's a Novacom era.
Right. Well, the fact, yeah, and right, and also Jeff Lewis. Like he plays good, like, person who feels like they're of the similar age to Eugene and Connie. Yeah. Which is not a thing that we get a lot of. No. And so they've really like triple dipped on this guy.
Yeah. Well, with all that context out of the way, do we have a promo to roll?
You know what, Andrew? We do in fact have a promo.
And it burns like 3rd degree.
Andrew is retiring from the podcast. It's time for him to leave. He's seen everything. I just got rickrolled with John Foreman.
All right, here's the actual promo.
Coming up on Adventures in Odyssey, Bernard and Eugene are pulled over by the Colorado police because Bernard is driving too slow. While Bernard tries to fight the ticket and ends up in jail over charges of contempt, Eugene discovers a circle of friends just like himself and is tempted to stay in Colorado. Will our dynamic duo ever come back? Find out on the next Adventure in Odyssey.
That was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like it was a little plot heavy. Like, I do feel like I didn't need to listen to the episode really that much.
Yeah.
With the exception of the conclusion at the end, which is barely even emphasized by the episode. Like,
right.
Barely.
Right. So I've been formulating this thought, and I'm just going to get it here off the top. But
go for it.
I think at least in these early days, I do not understand what Marshall Younger's perspective is. We're going to get into it later.
Okay.
But I feel like as far as like the main writers go, I feel like I kind of get their thing.
Yeah, for sure.
He seems like a guy who feels like because of his job, he should be making big statements, but doesn't actually know what the statements are.
That's fair. That is very fair.
I think last episode, this episode, and knowing that like the second episode he ever wrote was Living Nativity.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Just feel like episodes that are like taking shots, but not in a clear direction or with a clear purpose.
No, just shots.
And right, in a way that like I'm like, I don't actually think this is like reflective of who you are, but more like what you think you should be making as an employee for Focus on the Family.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. I was struck this episode with, once again, just feeling like, this like occasionally brushes up against things that are interesting, but it can't like figure out what it's trying to say, which is the same thing we talked about last episode. And then when I like looked and was like, oh, they're both Marshall Younger episodes, I was like, is this a thing I can track with him?
Yeah. I mean, I would be curious to see what we gather moving forward. Because I do have affection for Marshall Younger.
I do as well. Like, I usually think of him in the, like, of, like, the old guard Odyssey people, McCusker, then Younger.
Yeah.
Even though, and Younger's not even there for the first, like, 3 years. But he's, like, on the earlier end of things. And so it just... He feels like, because like they do like in the 2000s, they do the big writing change up, which is when we get like Hubler and Buchanan and all the split episode nonsense. And like that makes more sense. And I'm like, I'm happy to call like, Kathy Buchanan, Nathan Hubler, like good contributors to like the new era of Odyssey. Marshall Younger is kind of this weird in between where it's like he clearly like he's got a lot of episodes on the show, but he's not like
I feel like he's just really good at making Odyssey episodes, if that makes sense. Like he knows.
Right, he's competent.
Like he's got the Simpsons part of it down, where like he knows roughly how to make a joke and to do a thing and to make it feel like it's moving somewhere. But he just doesn't have the thesis or the ethos to like really make the art have meaning. He's just like, I'm writing an episode because that's my job, and I'll put in some jokes and some themes and such. And
that is probably fair.
I don't know. He strikes me as somebody that wasn't in charge of creating what the show became and was just trying to paint inside the lines.
Yeah. But yeah, so he comes on in 92 and he is the first person, he's like the first outside writer who then gets a tenure. And like continues till today. We've got like little blips here and there, and like Steve Harris is obviously part of the original creation, but we don't have anyone who sticks. It's like the original like Lawler McCusker like 87 dynamic duo. With Steve Harris there to get things started. He bails in 88, and then it's like we add no new big director or no new big writers until Marshall Younger in 92, and then not again until like 98. And
wow.
So yeah.
That's just absurd.
We've got Adam Deckard on the line here. How are you doing, Adam Deckard?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, buddy.
You're on the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Oh, hello.
Say hi to yourself.
That's what you get for cold calling me.
Well, I do what I do. Hello,
So Adam, this is great because you have a law enforcement perspective. So we have two things that we would like to discuss with you. Based on the episode we're covering. So the episode we're covering is called Third Degree. It's part of the road trip. And it's an episode in which Bernard Walton is pulled over for going below the speed limit. So
okay.
I would like two components to this. One, I would like, hey, what's the deal with going under the speed limit? How frequently is that a thing that we have to worry about? And two, I would like an explanation of what the title is referring to, because we have no idea.
Okay, so to my understanding, under the speed limit is not a problem unless you go so far under that it's dangerous for other drivers.
Would you consider going 32
in a 65?
In a 65 a hazard?
Absolutely, if you don't have your hazards on. Yes.
Okay.
There you
so,
go.
had Bernard had his hazards, would have he gotten pulled over?
Probably not. Unlikely, because at that point you're doing your due diligence to warn other drivers that you're driving slow and probably have a good reason for it.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
I mean, they could have pulled him over, but like, I doubt he'd get a ticket.
Yeah.
Great.
Might just be like, hey, what's the deal here, buddy?
This is good.
I feel like that's how anyone would react with Bernard. You can't be like, hey man, like, what's the deal? It's like, hey man, what's going on? Like, how you doing?
Clearly, this isn't what you were intending to do.
Right.
This
like,
isn't how
it's
you
like
thought
you
today
were
was
trying
going to
break
go.
the law, man. Like, we just like you.
We just like you.
And then, do you have any idea what third degree refers to? We were trying to figure out, like, murder only has a first and second degree, and then it just becomes manslaughter, right? There's no third degree there.
Yeah, but there are offenses that are of the third degree. Like, there's a misdemeanor of the third degree. There are felonies of the third degree. So maybe one of those.
Is contempt of court by any chance?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Fair enough.
Could look it up. The next 15 minutes.
All right. If you want to shoot me a text in the next 15 minutes with that answer, that would be delightful.
My computer right now. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna continue on recording, but I look forward to your contribute, and thanks for joining.
For sure.
Love you.
Yeah, love you. Watch Ham Talk Pod.
Hey, man.
All right. Bye, buddy.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
We need to call people more, Dylan.
I mean, I don't know if that's anything for listeners, but it was fun in this
It
instance.
was so fun.
where I just saw my phone was ringing.
And it was a law enforcement major. Well, he graduated, didn't he?
Correct.
Yeah, no.
Correct. This man has a degree in criminal justice.
Yeah.
So I figured who else to ask?
Beautiful. That's absolutely absurd. I thought that the third degree did exist in some capacity or another, but
Okay.
I was very much incorrect in regards to murder.
Oh man.
I was like, yeah, it's just like really, really, really casual murder, like really accidental, like really just accidental murder.
I believe that's manslaughter.
No, that's third degree.
Third degree is where you don't like someone, but you still kill them accidentally. Like manslaughter is like, oh, I didn't know them, or I felt neutrally towards them.
Yeah. No.
Third degree is like, I didn't like this person, but I also had no ill intent towards them beyond that.
Yeah.
It's a fine line.
Yeah, it's like if you accidentally give somebody a contaminant and then they die of like an allergic reaction. It's like, yeah, I mean, maybe he was an annoying customer, but I sure as crap didn't try to kill him.
Okay.
Clean your peanut butter knives, everybody.
So yeah, as we just discussed there with Adam, Bernard gets pulled over because he's driving 32 in an area where the minimum speed limit was 40, and he is driving slowly because there is altitude, because they are in Colorado, and his truck doesn't do well in high altitude, and they are in Colorado.
Yeah, that's a big problem. I don't know how they anticipated getting from the East Coast to the West Coast without crossing mountains, but it seems like a bit of an oversight on Bernard's part.
Yeah, and as Adam explained there, like, if he had put on his four-ways...
Why didn't he?
Great point. He probably would have been fine. Although, knowing his truck, maybe the four-ways don't work. But
that's fair.
But yeah, we had an easy solution here, but it was missed. The other thing is, we're in Colorado, and my note is immediately like, oh no, is there going to be like, are they going to go to focus on the family? Like, what's going to happen here? Because we already got Bernard listening to Odyssey in the first episode, and I'm like, they can't resist the fact that they're going through Colorado. And so we do get like oh, it's really lovely or whatever, and I'm like, okay, we get it, guys.
You like Colorado.
But this is nothing compared to what the official guide has.
Oh? So this is what you've been sitting on.
The original draft of this. So the idea for the episode started with, what if Eugene stumbled upon a town of Eugene's? So
lovely.
Fair enough. But then when they decided to set it on Colorado, they were like, oh, we're going to make inside jokes. And the first draft idea was that Bernard was going to be pulled over by Dr. James Dobson. Oh
Oh my gosh. That would have been incredible. That would have been fantastic. I would have made this 100%. Like,
he pulls Bernard over and then starts spanking him.
yeah. Why aren't you listening to Odyssey on the radio?
Like, what?
Don't you know that's Sinner's music?
Like, maybe the joke is that they get Dobson to voice the cop. Mm-hmm. That version makes sense. Mm-hmm. But the idea that it would be the actual
Bernard
Dr.
looks over
James
and
Dobson
it's just Dr. Dobson
pulling him over is so absurd to me. And yeah, that he was going to give him a ticket and some life advice.
Gotta love it. Love it.
But they ended up giving up on that idea because it was pulling it too far in a weird direction. And I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a very weird direction. I don't know. Like, I feel like the only way that joke works is if you really don't address it. Like, if the cop's name is James Dobson, voiced by James Dobson, and everything else goes normally. Like, I feel like that's a pretty great bit.
Yeah, fair. Also, while we're talking about focus on the family.
Oh, God.
Andrew, let me read a text from my aunt.
Oh, goodness. Your aunt.
My aunt, who is a, how do we put it? She's very, philanthropic.
Oh, lovely.
She gives lots of money
to focus
to Christian organizations. We'll keep it vague, but it will not be vague in a moment here because the text is, I met with the development guy for Focus on the Family this morning, and I was telling him about your Odyssey review podcast.
Oh,
he thought that it was great and wanted to listen to it. What's the name?
Well, if you're listening, it's the Wadfam Chalk Pod, spelled WODFAMCHOCPOD.
I can't believe you managed that.
I had second thoughts halfway through.
I saw it in your face. I was like, this man got through the first two syllables and then went, oh no.
This is a long one.
There's a lot of letters. So yeah, that apparently occurred.
Wow.
So I don't know what it means to be a development guy for Focus on the Family, but yeah.
You know, now's our chance to pitch ideas.
Yeah. So the other right. Let's pitch. Hey, pay us for this podcast. There's my idea. What if you paid some people to have takes that were negative towards you? That feels healthy, right?
I mean, in the spirit of this episode, it seems very Christian.
But the other thing is, so we know that that there is at least a level of, I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast, but there is a level of awareness of us somewhere in the Adventures in Odyssey organization because, and I cannot believe this is still the case, Focus on the Family's, Adventures in Odyssey's official Instagram account does follow us.
What poor soul is in charge of that account?
It's so funny to me, Andrew. Every day I wake up and I go, I cannot believe that they are following it. What do they think they are doing? What do they think this show is?
Have they not listened to it? They must not.
But look, here's the thing: is it's not like they do follow some other Instagram accounts that are Odyssey related.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are any of them satire?
However, not all of the other ones are like, people that are more or less propping up Odyssey.
Yeah,
and to be clear, they are following 32 accounts.
Huh.
And half of those are organizational ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Including Focus on the Family, Focus on the Family Indonesia, Bring Your Bible to School, I Am Pro-Life, Plugged In, Brio,
Wow.
Focus on the Family Canada. Like, it's like they're following
themselves.
right, and then they're
And then
also
us.
following some like. They're following like former guest Michael LaFavor. They're following some like Odyssey like art accounts or like news accounts or meme accounts. And then for some reason they are following us. They also I think are following some people who have like worked on the show, which once again
Strange.
but that makes sense.
Yeah.
How are we in the mix? I
love the idea that the person that's in charge of this is just like sliding it under the table and nobody that's like their boss doesn't know.
Right.
Their boss doesn't listen to this podcast, but they resent their boss because they're not getting paid enough and they like this podcast because it kind of takes a couple jabs at Focus on the Family.
right. Yeah, I just like there's gotta be yeah, there's I don't know. Is it pure ignorance or is someone like pulling one over on someone or yeah, I don't know. Look.
Maybe they genuinely like us.
Look, if you are listening and you are the person who runs the Instagram account, you do not need to we will never talk about this again. But send me an email. Please.
Yeah.
Like, we will keep it very low key, and between us, you will get no harassment, but I just need to know.
Yeah. I mean,
Are you
I
the person?
think you're
and the
doing
thing
it.
is, I've been really, like, I've tweeted about this, but I have not done anything
on
else
Instagram.
because I'm also.
You don't want to poke the bear.
Right, it would really bum me out if they stopped following.
Yeah,
because it
no,
is
that's
just
fair.
the funniest thing to me.
Oh my goodness, Dylan. I can't believe we're still here. I can't believe they follow us. I got to explain to a coworker a vague premise of this podcast because they asked what I was doing after work. And when I tell you the sound was crickets, they were like, oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh my goodness.
So I would also our law enforcement correspondent Adam Deckard has responded back to say that contempt of court is in fact a misdemeanor of the 2nd degree, not the 3rd.
Get fact checked, Focus.
So yeah,
Still even less 3rd degrees to be found.
yep. It is
Shock Squad, if you know why it's titled The 3rd Degree, please explain, because I'm endlessly confused. So, Bernard gets pulled over and initially fights the policeman on the ticket because he doesn't understand it. Like, I'm driving too slow. How could this possibly be a problem? And the police officer's like, well, no, there's a minimum speed limit. You know, you've got to be able to, like Adam said, not be a hazard to oncoming traffic, pace of traffic, and all that good stuff. And Bernard is just insistent that this is a scam, and so the
right. He starts talking about the fact that he's like, oh, I've heard of this. Like they get like out of towners on these fake charges, and so he like decides that he's going. So he gets the ticket. And then he's like, I'm going to fight this in court.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And and so they go to the court. And the guy there, like the clerk, explains that it's going to be the next day till they can, be seen. And Bernard's like, okay, great. And Eugene's like, hey, Bernard.
Isn't it just cheaper to pay the ticket?
Hotel and food for like staying an extra day here is going to be more than paying the ticket. And Bernard's like, well, no, but it's the principle of the thing. I'm being principled here.
So many principles. Not a lot of students, but many principles.
And then the clerk, Bryant, as we will go to find out, oversteps.
Oh, yeah.
And is like, look, I'm not allowed to do this, but there is like legal precedent that you can use to argue your case. And he starts rattling it off, and Eugene's like, oh, yeah, I know all the same stuff as you. And so they go back and forth. And, then Eugene and Bryant really hit it off.
Yeah.
They have really like cute chemistry.
No, very cute.
At one point, Bernard suggests that they get married.
Yeah.
A joke that I do not think the Odyssey would make in the year 2022.
By no means. I don't think that they would do any of this stuff because they are talking down against like police and justice, the judicial system, and like they're not painting law enforcement in particularly positive lights. Like there's no way that this could exist in 2023.
Yeah. After Dobson himself evicted Officer Harley from the show.
Wait, was that Dobson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Dobson stepped in and evicted Harley from the show. But like, we're still like, yeah, like we're kind of chill with like
ACAB?
Right, like there's
cops are annoying?
Yeah, but it's not I don't know. It's cops all cops are annoying?
All cops
are annoying. Great, Andrew.
It wasn't that great.
No, but I'm glad we stopped the episode for it.
Oh goodness.
And so there's this whole I don't know. I don't understand what the point of view of this episode is.
I think it might just be Eugene's. Like, I feel like this is a Eugene episode.
I think it's trying to do like goofy hijinks and not giving much thought beyond that, which obviously I'm here for, but is just like a far cry from what we get so often with this show, and so it's very funny.
Yeah, funny and strange, and like obviously it's away from Odyssey. You know, we have these new environments, new characters. The writers are doing different things, and as previously stated, like this is a new writer working with an entirely new environment. So yeah, it does make sense that this episode would be kind of convoluted. I do appreciate the whole joke about that Bernard makes about was it Johnson versus Arizona, and he says the man takes on an entire state.
Yes.
And as dumb as those jokes are, I don't know. I listened to it 3 times, and I'm pretty sure I laughed 3 times. So.
Sure. It's yeah. And right, so
if it's dumb, I am too.
Yeah. So then Bryant invites Eugene over. He's got a group of friends who they all discuss philosophy, and seeing as Eugene's going to be staying, around, they go and they they all sit down and they start referencing all of the different Eugene explains that he's a student at Campbell College, and then they're like, oh, is it named after Thomas Campbell? Because then it'd have to be in verse. Is it named after dip, and they start going through all these things, never once hitting John Campbell, who is the musical composer for this show and this episode.
It must have been just too on the nose. I don't know.
I don't know.
I love that inside baseball stuff, but I don't know that they would get away with it.
But I think someone, because everyone's making obscure references.
True.
And he could have been like,
No, Bernard should have been like, oh, you don't know my cousin John Campbell.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Bernard winds up doing like referencing his cousin, and so it doesn't land. And he's like, oh, you wouldn't know that person. That joke works with John Campbell. You could also say like, oh, named after John Campbell, so like you gotta sing, or you gotta like everything has to be written to a tune.
Yeah.
Or what, like there's a joke there that they didn't do, and I'm just like mildly annoyed because, and this is how broken my brain is, the 2 I came up with when I was like, ooh, how could I jump in on this conversation were Campbell's Soup. And I was like, man, I should look up who the Campbell's Soup is named after, because it's got to be someone, right?
Yeah.
And then it was John Campbell, because I do this freaking podcast.
Of course. I don't. I had a chemistry teacher in high school named Mr. Campbell. So that's the only Campbell that hasn't been already mentioned that I am bringing to the table. And I would not want to go back to his class. I was terrible at chemistry.
I was also bad at chemistry.
Not good.
Not one of my skill sets.
It's the math of the science world, and I'm not great at math.
No, that's not true. Physics is the math of the science world.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Chemistry is just gross. Like,
Yeah.
I really struggle with chem. One of the few like STEM classes that I struggled with.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I really struggled with chemistry, and that's pretty much the only one, because all the other ones that I took, I didn't. Yeah, just memorized it. It was fine.
Yeah.
I still don't know what a mole is to this day.
Oh my word! Yeah, no, moles were the death of me.
What are they? They're like, oh, it can be this much or this much.
Yeah, is there 6.02? Is that something mole related? Mm-hmm. Look, I got.
But moles are also relative to the atoms of which they're like.
Sure, yeah, of course they are. I got a. What did I do? I think I got like a 12% on a mole test.
That makes sense.
Which was like also like the first grade of the marking period. So which meant I had a 12% in chemistry, and I had to spend the entire semester clawing my way back from that. And I think I wound up with like a D or a C.
That's fair. That sounds like my experience. No, I
think it was a C, but like regardless, it was miserable.
I had a C- in that class, and I had to do extra credit so I wouldn't fail it.
Oh, and I like my overall grade for the year still ended up being fine, but like that semester was destroyed. Look, Andrew, I'm not an idiot like you.
Yeah, I know. Well, your class
I'm a Eugene, not a Bernard.
Your classes also took a full year, and I took chemistry in half of a year, so.
Sure, but did you not have quarterly ESL? Yeah, probably not. No. Okay.
No.
Yeah. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Look, the point is...
I was public school. Let's just talk about that.
This was not in public school.
No,
this was co-op.
Yes.
You never went to public school.
No.
You were always homeschooled.
Notoriously.
So they're hanging out at this place. Bernard tries to get away and go find food, and he goes over and he's like, like you can tell, like in the writing of it and the performance, it's like, oh look, a woman, she'll be level-headed and won't sound like these crazy people. And then she opens her mouth and it's just words written for Eugene coming out of her mouth, and it's very funny.
No, it is great.
Look, I'm not saying that that's my type, but...
I'm saying it's mine. I will make that firm stance right here, right now.
Okay.
Smart
Get yourself
women.
a woman who talks like Eugene.
Wonder and excitement, you say.
And all kinds of other fun stuff. No, actually, Eugene's not wonder and excitement. It's oh gosh, because we do get a Eugene episode, or like Eugene intro, first one this episode. But it's something he like overstates it, and then it's like that excitement that is his whole thing. But it's exuberation, I believe.
Yeah.
Dun, and exuberation, excitement that is.
Very
Welcome
nice.
to Adventures in... Look, I'm doing the Eugene intro for this episode, so...
I love that for you.
Chalk Squad's already heard it, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Got that trademark Weaver stamp of swagger.
Anyways, Eugene performs his ukulele, and everyone goes wild.
Yeah. He's basically the Fonz here.
Right.
They're like, where have you been all my life? Never leave me.
Yep. And then they say where they're going to throw on the Reykjavik Chronicles, which is a movie that Eugene adores.
Yeah.
And he starts being a film nerd about it.
Yeah.
As though they had not listened to Truth, Trivia, and Trina, where he scoffs at the idea of caring about movies.
Well, he only cares about like he doesn't care about Gone with the Wind. He cares about like the silent films of the era that are just like shots of water.
Right, or documentary.
Yeah, or documentary.
But like it's just funny to hear him like gush about like cinematography.
He's seen scenes from a marriage.
Sure.
But he's definitely not seen Singing in the Rain.
Sure. He's gushing about the cinematography here, and it was just funny to me, being like, says the man who like couldn't believe that Connie knew anything about movies, and why would you do that? Like, a mere 5 episodes ago or whatever.
Did you catch the way that he pronounced montage?
Yes. Absolutely I did.
And the montage.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was something special, because it's not even played for laughs, because it's just like kind of something that's happening in the background.
Yeah.
But boy, did it get me.
Yeah. Eugene just leaves this party glowing. Bernard is very sullen. Eugene then coaches Bernard. It's the next day. He's coaching him on the legal precedents, and Bernard's like, yeah, but I could just use the scam argument. And Eugene's like, no, don't do that.
We have no evidence.
Right. And then Eugene, I'm just like, why isn't Eugene representing him?
Yeah.
That would be really nice. Also,
Can you be represented by somebody that's not a lawyer if it's not yourself?
Yeah, I think so. And part of the reason I think
Adam?
so is that Eugene does it in another episode. So I didn't look to see if this is before or after. But there's an episode in which Wit speeds.
Yeah.
And Eugene represents him in court.
Yeah.
And
why didn't this just happen? Yeah, no, excellent point.
but also,
I think it's
this
gotta
is
be
the
after
same plot.
Very
Bernard
much.
is too slow, and Eugene's offering legal advice, and that one Wit was too fast, and Eugene was offering legal advice.
And both instances, it was neither of their fault.
Sure, yes.
I just think
Bernard
that-
should have his four ways on. It's his fault.
That's true. He should have his full ways on.
The guy in the cell later on really hits the head on what the deal is here. And I'm realizing now that I don't remember what the name of the guy in the cell is, but it's either going to be Jeff or Stanley, like Jeffrey or Stanley, because I named those as two of Eugene's nerd friends earlier on.
Yeah.
And one of them has to be the guy in the cell, because I forgot he was here. I'm guessing...
What if we call him Janley?
I'm guessing Jeffrey. Stanley feels like a Eugene nerd friend name, whereas Jeffrey does not. So
Jeffrey has kids that he hasn't seen in 6 months.
Right.
And he's so mad, and he riles up Bernard about the scams
Look,
of the government.
we'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it. We don't need to jump right to there right now.
What am I skipping?
But because this is the point at which the judge tells Bernard that he
whole court
he's
scene.
got to repair his truck and pay the fine.
Yeah.
He basically is like, Bernard, we're not dealing with any of that precedent. Just tell me the thing. And Bernard's like, look, my car couldn't go that fast. And the dude's like, then your car was causing a hazard to other drivers.
Yes.
And so I'm also going to require you to repair your truck.
Yeah.
And this is the third episode in the row in which Bernard's truck has been repaired.
I'm not gonna name names, but it sounds like a Ford problem.
It's just so funny to me. I am like, this is becoming a real ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
Of Bernard has set out to trade his truck in for another one, and by the time he gets there, he's going to be driving a new truck.
Oh, at least mostly new. I doubt he's gonna get any more money for it based on all the repairs he's put in.
Yeah. And so he this just sets him off, and he goes into scam mode, and the judge is like, you say anything else, I'm going to hold you in contempt of court. And he mutters something under his breath, and the judge is like, great, 72 hours of jail time. If you do not pay the fine, you get 72 hours of jail, and your fine also gets doubled.
Yeah. I mean, he was not having it. Judge was clearly not happy. Bernard definitely should have just conceded and paid for it.
Correct.
Just paid for the repairs on his car. It probably would have drove up the resale value, if anything. So
Well, and he's still going to have to.
yeah, exactly.
Even after he gets out of jail. I believe
Yeah.
that the paying for, he's got to pay the government but
for the fine, but he also has to fix his car.
Also has to fix his car.
Yeah. Have you? Well, I know that you've been pulled over at least once.
Yes, because you were in the car.
Yes. Have you been pulled over any other time than that?
Yes, I've been pulled over once by campus security, 2 times in actuality, once with you, once because I ran a red light with a bunch of other friends, including former guest on this episode, Adam Deckard.
Hey!
Slide into his DMs and ask about that incident. But neither times was I given a ticket.
Okay, that's
So yeah, at this point, Bernard goes to jail, Eugene goes to Bryant, and Bryant's like, look, his only course of action is at this point is to pay the fine. And Eugene's like, yeah, I understand that. And then he's like, also, Eugene, I was talking to my uncle, and he could give you a job programming computers. So can you go interview for that? And Eugene's like, I mean, sure, I guess so.
weird.
Sure.
I mean, yeah. I guess I probably would take the interview just for the sake of experience.
Yeah. You never turn down an opportunity to interview.
Really? I I've definitely turned down some opportunities to interview.
I don't, unless it is like that much of an inconvenience to you in your life. Like if you just don't have the space in your schedule to pull it off.
Yeah, I think that was mostly my problem.
But if you're offered an opportunity to interview, do it.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, because especially if you're in that stage in like applying for a job and stuff, like you typically have a lot of questions to answer still.
Even if you're not, you gain experience interviewing. You see another opportunity that's out there, and it gives you that data point of, oh, the offer they made is not more than what I'm making, or is more than what I'm making, and that is, or they don't make an offer, and all of those are valuable data points to have.
True.
Also, if you're being asked to interview,
they want you,
and they don't make an
thirsty.
offer, something has gone terribly wrong.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fair. That is fair.
Yeah, but yeah, and so we cut back to the jail cell, and Bernard, thinking doesn't seem to be aware there's someone else in the cell, but he is there cleaning it.
Yep,
because
he's
of course he is. We love it. It's delightful.
I can't imagine he has cleaning supplies, so he must just be like paper towel and everything.
Yeah. I imagine he's using his own shirt. Like this man's really, or he's using a sock maybe. This guy's really making it work, but. There's another guy in the cell, and he speaks up and asks what Bernard's in for, and Bernard's like, oh, traffic violation. He's like, oh, what, they got you on that scam?
Yeah.
And then just turns into a total conspiracy theorist.
Yep.
And I think I've seen enough shots of like person in a dark corner of a cell like speaks up that I just immediately had an image of what was happening here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And like some credit to the sound design, but also just for the tropes that we're playing in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he's in court, and yeah, he's just a complete he's just a complete whack job. Like he's completely just like he thinks that somehow he's going to change the system by staying in jail.
Yes.
Which
yeah. Right.
Unless you're Nelson Mandela.
Right, but he's like, right, you can't pay don't pay the fine, stay in jail and do the thing they don't want you to do, like have
Enjoy
a good
yourself.
time.
Yeah.
And then he's on about like a revolution and overthrowing the system and like
did you ask them permission, or did they ask your permission?
Right. This guy, I think the joke is that he's like uber libertarian.
Yeah.
Like I think that's like
that's the trope
yeah,
that they're playing
but or just general conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
But here's another thing, and this is a crazy thing to say out loud. I don't think 2022 Odyssey could portray a conspiracy theory in a negative light. No. I don't think that they would be glorifying of one, but I don't think they would be, given their audience, they would be able to do a thing where the joke is that this guy is a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Because weirdly, the idea of conspiracy theorists is now politically charged.
Yeah. I just love modern news culture. It's so great. I just love the way that people get their information these days.
It's the best.
It's got no problems.
And Eugene shows up briefly and has a conversation with him and establishes that he was offered the position, and then he like walks away, and Bernard was like, wait, what?
You got offered a job?
But he shows up, Eugene shows up at the discussion group, at the philosophy group with Brian and Elizabeth and probably Stanley.
Probably.
And they start talking, and it's like, oh, they're gonna watch the same movie they watched yesterday. And then they like talk about the like this philosophy thing, and
I think it's like a theory of personality type situation.
Yeah, or a logic theory or something. There's some theory that they're trying to discuss, and they are all just like, so you guys all believe in like this form of it, right? And they're all like, yeah, of course. And he's like, okay, cool, case closed. And Eugene's like, that's all you're gonna do? He's like, well, there's nothing to debate if we all, like, we discussed it and we're all on the same page. So,
yeah,
like, moving on.
How could we dare influence duplicity of thought? Like,
yeah, right. And this is just, I don't know. It speaks to a thing of like, I don't know. It's like, this is also an episode that, like, in that moment is condemning echo chambers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No,
which,
for
like,
sure. Well, I think
good.
it's calling. I heard it as like playing on the whole like science community as a complete.
It's
echo
making
chamber.
fun. No, it is making fun of like academia, which the show loves to do.
I know, but I love academia.
But it also is inadvertently, or as part of that, just like condemning echo chambers, which I am, a big fan of.
Yeah, for sure.
I just, one of like the, I don't know, like, you know how people talk about like non-negotiables in like a relationship thing? I'm going to expand that out as someone who is in no relationships to be like a friend
co-host.
thing as
That's
well.
a relationship.
Oh, thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.
But like, I don't want people who are a part of my life who in no way challenge me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I find it very difficult to strike the balance of being challenged enough so that I'm not lazy, but not being challenged so much to the point where like I have to forsake my identity, if that makes sense. Where you have the sense of, yeah, you don't want to be around people that are just like you because of, just homogenous thought and everything. And it's an echo chamber. It keeps you in that sphere. Like, for example, I feel like the ex-evangelical community is a very good example of this, in the sense that there's a very large echo chamber within that community of like, yeah, all church is bad, no church is good church. And so like, this is the rule, not any exceptions. And it's very problematic. But that's obviously just as dogmatic as what you were leaving to get away from. And so it's equally as problematic, at least in my perspective.
And to be clear, that is not a condemnation of ex-evangelicals as a concept, but it is right. It is a problem with that community.
Yeah, by no
in the
means.
same way that it is a problem with church communities.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So many communities, but except for the ones that I'm a part of, because I'm perfect in this.
Yeah, I've pretty much gotten at least 9.5 out of 10. So
sorry, but you were saying
Boy Scouts didn't go over well.
you were saying about like. Yeah, about striking that balance, though.
Yes, yeah. I would say that it's incredibly difficult to maintain a sense of independence without swinging too far from one echo chamber to another, and to establish a sense of personal identity, personal like grounding for your beliefs and ideas and dispositions. That is outside of the two major camps that you're being pulled into.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's necessarily what I was trying to say from the beginning, but that's
I think you were talking on a personal level about not wanting to, like, only wanting to be challenged to a degree.
Yes, that's so like I think that how you're challenged is very important. And how you can, like, former guest of the show, hopefully future guest of the show, Nathan Haverstick, best friend of mine.
Also our Chris.
Also our Chris.
On every episode. I mean, not literally every episode, but
most
the majority.
Yeah. He's very different from me. He was always more introverted. I was more extroverted growing up. And I would say that our relationship is one that has challenged me in very good ways. But as far as like, who do I want to marry? The person I want to marry, I might want to be with somebody that's slightly more similar to me than my best friend was. Not to say that it was a bad thing, but like there were still plenty of times in which Nathan would need to go off and do his own thing, and I would need to go off and do my own thing.
Sure. I mean, we want similarity, and I don't think the concept of challenging needs to be like, I need to find my exact opposite so that they challenge me in every way.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm like,
fair.
I do think that if you have a relationship that is not challenging you in any way,
yeah,
that is just, at least in my experience, is like a little suspect.
No, I would say it's very suspect. I wouldn't. It's hard to say pride myself on this because it's also one of my greatest insecurities and pitfalls. But like, I'm always trying to be better. I don't need anybody to remind me that I should be better or that I could be better. Just because I'm constantly on myself about that. And so there is a certain sense where having somebody that challenges you is pushing your mind to go places that it wouldn't naturally go. But still respects your independence, I think is important.
Sure.
And I would say that when Eugene comes back to his friend group after the fact, and he tells them, like, they talk about the job and everything,
right?
And they're all like, "Oh, you're gonna take this job, of course." And he's like, "Well, actually, I'm not sure about it." And the more that they push him because they think it's the right thing for him to do, the more he's like, "No. Actually, you aren't for me. I don't need just a million more of myself." Yeah,
they're really insistent that he accept this position. He's like, "No, I've got like ties to Odyssey and like people I care about there." Though he doesn't name names, which I think is interesting. Because we're in this weird like Howsmith has passed, so like Wit is still technically in Odyssey,
but we don't want to name drop him.
Correct.
Just yet.
Yeah, and we haven't at any point in this road trip addressed Eugene and Katrina's relationship. And so that's like not coming up. And so it is just this like interesting moment where it's just like Eugene's just like mentioning vague people back in Odyssey. But they then, like, Bryant jumps in at this point and is like, no. This should be a purely logical decision. You're an adult. Feelings and friends shouldn't get in the way of, like, your career. And I'm just like, this feels like the blatant shot at academia. But it also, the only reason that Bryant that Eugene even has this job opportunity is because Bryant liked him. Yeah, and gave it to him, which, I mean, I ship it, so, you know. But, like, their friendship brought about... What if Eugene goes off and becomes gay? What if that's how they write Will Ryan off? Great, perfect, no notes. The thing that's weird is, like, why is Bryant and the other group insistent that Eugene stay, if not because they want him as a friend? But at the same time, they're like, friends shouldn't get in the way of like your life improving. And then they go on to be like yokels and like just dunk on Odyssey at large. Yeah. But which I don't get the idea that this place is that much bigger than Odyssey. No, I also don't get that impression. I have so much trouble with the like, hey, we got to do everything from a logical perspective and whatnot. Because like, I am like an analytical person who works in a very analytical field, who makes a lot of decisions based on logic, and I'm still like, if you are not incorporating like human feelings and empathy into all of your decision making, what are you doing? Who the hell are you? Are you a person? Yeah. And I'm like, and not to dunk on the people who don't have that, because a lot of them are on the spectrum from one reason or another. Like there's understandable reasons why that human connection might not be important to you, but this insistence that Eugene should like neglect the more like human feeling side of him for no ostensible reason from a bunch of people who have no like deep investment in him is just like, it's a turn. And it's I can totally, like, there's no reason Eugene shouldn't walk out at this moment, which is what he does. And then he goes to the cell where this guy is just continuing to rant about revolution and overthrowing the government and all that stuff. And Bernard starts to like ease up and be like, well, I don't know that we need to go that far. Yeah, I wasn't getting in a revolution. And then this guy hits the nail on the head where he's like, oh, you're one of those fakers who's only in here because he got his pride hurt.
Yeah. Which, fair. He did. That's why he's there.
I mean, like, 100%. This guy gets it.
Yeah,
Like, he
yeah.
immediately figures out.
Yeah, you're
that,
just here because you're upset. You're not here because you actually want to change anything.
Right. And then Bernard tries to give him the impression that he's not prideful, seemingly because he's, like, afraid of this guy, as, like,
Yeah,
Eugene
yeah.
shows up to then get him out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no,
they-
it's really great. It's a situation where he's like, oh, I need to backtrack. Okay, yes, I am a child of the new dawn of the blood of
Right.
angry men. Eugene, please get me out of here.
Yes. Yep. I'm saying the pledge to this, like, anarchy.
Yeah,
Like,
it's sounding pretty anarchy.
and then, yeah, they both go back on the road
Mm-hmm.
and just reflect briefly upon their growth in this episode.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends.
That's where it ends.
And
Boy,
what is the point?
we don't know.
It's I think if you try and read this at anything less than hijinks, it fully falls apart.
Yeah.
The point is, maybe the most point it gets is that there is reason for Eugene to go, like, to be in Odyssey. And the premise set up in his initial departure was that this was going to be like a soul journey
yeah.
for him.
Find
And
your
this-
place in the world.
Right, and this is maybe the component where it's like, okay, he's discovering that, like, there is still a drawback to Odyssey.
Yeah, which
Not a
is
drawback to Odyssey, but, like, there is something drawing him back to Odyssey.
It's Dr. Dobson. He's towing him back in his tow truck.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know. And then, right, Bernard's lesson is that he needs to be less prideful and just go submit to authority.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's interesting the Chris wrap up at
Yeah,
the end,
this is what
which is worth. Yeah, I'm glad that you took note of it as well. She says, like, it's very important to have people that are different from you or around or something like that, something to that effect. Wow, blew me out of the water.
well, because it's the exact same thing I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, that I'm like, I want people around me that challenge me.
Yeah.
But it also, right, so much of the way the Christian world is structured is like, let's insulate you from outside forces. Let's homeschool our kids so that they can't be corrupted by the world. Let's send them to private Christian schools. Let's not allow them to, like, be out of our sights for more than 5 minutes. Like, let's put stuff on their phones so that we can see all the text messages they're sending. Like, all of those crazy things that are, like, about controlling the inputs into the lives of children. And then Chris is just kind of like, yeah, but, like, it's good to be around people who are different. And I'm like, I mean, yes, absolutely. I
Been arguing
wholeheartedly
it from the
agree.
beginning.
Let's get more of this mentality. And it is just, covering episodes like this are that funny thing where I'm like, there is, like, if this episode was made today, the only things that would stay the same are, like, that Eugene and Bernard were together in a truck. Like,
Pretty much, I think you're right.
Every other element, I feel like, doesn't quite hold up under, like, current Odyssey standards and, like, focus on the family marching orders.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's almost 30 years old as an episode. Like, it's absurd, you know, in this era of the show, how far away it is from what we know now. It's truly astonishing, but it's one that I remembered, like, as a kid. Could not forget Eugene meeting a bunch of people that were similar to him, and definitely Bernard going to jail was one that stuck in my head from this album and made me want to come back to it. So
there you go.
I loosely enjoyed it.
Sure.
There were some funny jokes. I liked the atrium bit. That was pretty funny.
Sure.
That's about it.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. Well, then that's the thing, is it is a totally, like, it's the Marshall Younger thing where it's like, that was a fun episode to listen to. If I was a kid listening to an episode, it would be a fun episode listening to now if I wasn't doing a podcast about it. But as soon as I start to pull at the threads, I can't figure out what it is anymore, to mix metaphors. So yeah,
Gotta love it.
And I think it's time to get out of here, Andrew.
Yeah. Do you got anything to promote this week, Dylan?
I do not.
I'm sure I do, right? I watched something good that I liked.
Just pass, Andrew. We don't
Pass.
have time.
Yes, we don't have time. We'll be back. We'll talk later.
And with all that being said, we will be back next week for an episode that I've told you off the top, so I'm not going to tell you again now. Bye, guys.
Bye.